Natasha Cloud fouled her. It was not called.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games.
WNBA referees have an agenda against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever.
Definitely for the second game of the season, the referees swallowed their freaking whistles.
1.5, 1.7, 2.1, however many people tuned in to watch this game, they all came out with the same, the referees just aren't up to the task.
It happened again. Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom who's been credited with breathing life into the WNBA's viewership and ticket sales, was blatantly targeted, not by an opposing player this time, but by the very people responsible for protecting the integrity of the game, the referees.
The referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. They have an agenda against Caitlin Clark.
In a nail-biter matchup between the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty, with the world watching, the officials made their presence known in the worst way possible by deciding the outcome through silence. And when the game came down to the final possession, Caitlin Clark was hand-checked, grabbed, and blocked from releasing a potential game-winning shot with no whistle blown.
And this is the worst one. There's one foul, there's two fouls. Then she holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the fourth time on her arm. It's cheating. It's plain as day. The haters will say, she got locked up. Yeah, if you're fouling the whole game. But I'm going through this entire game. The corrupt refs gave this game to New York and they still barely won.
Not one. Just like that, the game was over. The footage is damning. Clark, visibly frustrated, approaches the referees for an explanation, only to be outright ignored. They turn their backs on her. Literally.
Y'all see what's happening right here? That is a WNBA referee turning his back to Caitlin Clark and the Fever. Oh my God. I mean, he literally got his back turned, ignoring Caitlin. I mean, this is bad. This is bad. This is beyond bad, bro. I can't even lie. Dude's got his whole back turned to Caitlin and Sophie, bro.
The referees, literally, they made a bad call. And if you guys have ever played sports, you know that, like, when a referee knows they've screwed up, they will do everything they can to not talk to the players.
Not one ref acknowledged her. Not her, not her teammates, not even the coach. Fans, analysts, and former players alike were left stunned. Meanwhile, Sabrina Ionescu gets sent to the line just moments earlier on what many are calling a phantom foul, giving the Liberty the 2-point edge that sealed the game. There's no debate anymore. This is not about missed calls. This is about targeting.
Seconds later, right after that, you get Sabrina Ionescu driving into Lexi Hull for what turns out to be the winning free throws.
And yet, despite the growing pile of video evidence, despite the outcry from commentators, fans, and even Fever head coach Stephanie White, the WNBA remains silent. No investigation, no statement, no accountability.
After every single game, WNBA players, fans, coaches are all complaining about the referees, and they have shown that they're not going to change anything because the referees continue to be horrible.
The league's top draw is getting tossed around, ignored by refs, and treated like an afterthought on the court, while those same referees walk away with no scrutiny. The question no one at the top seems willing to answer is simple. Why? Why is Caitlin Clark being treated like this? This isn't just about one game. It's not just about a rookie season. This is about the message being sent to every young fan tuning in for the first time. The league promotes Clark when it's profitable, but refuses to protect her when it matters.
They have an agenda against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. There was 3 referees. None of them turned their head to even look at Caitlin Clark, acknowledge her at all, bro. They treated them like they was nothing. Nothing, I tell you. This is messed up, almost cursed, guys.
And as the evidence mounts, fans are starting to wonder, is this incompetence or something far worse? Because what happened in that game wasn't just a bad call. It was a blatant attack on fairness, sportsmanship, and the future of the WNBA. Type CC100 if you're a real Caitlin Clark fan.
But at the same time, the Fever were on the wrong end of some whistles, it seemed, in this game. And it's seemingly been that way for much of the season. And it's been a recurring theme where there's a level of physicality allowed against them, and they're not allowed to reciprocate on the other end. That particularly, of course, goes for Caitlin Clark.
The Indiana Fever were up by 10 heading into the fourth quarter against the New York Liberty. The energy was electric. Caitlin Clark had just nailed a deep three from the logo, and momentum was finally on Indiana's side. What happened next wasn't just a collapse. It was an unraveling orchestrated by the referees. Down the stretch, the Liberty were gifted calls that swung the game in their favor, while the Fever, and Clark in particular, were left to fight not only the opponent, but the officials themselves.
Like, I've seen referees be talking to coaches and then mid-conversation, just when they know they're in the wrong, mid-conversation just turn around and start ignoring players. Mid-conversation, start ignoring players. It is genuinely something that would be is concerning.
Let's break down the critical moments. First, there was the foul call on Lexi Hull as she guarded Sabrina Ionescu. Hull went straight up, played textbook defense, yet Sabrina dipped her shoulder, initiated the contact, and flopped. The refs bought it and handed New York 2 free throws.
As you guys can see here, Lexi Hall's guarding Sabrina. She goes straight up. Sabrina dips her shoulder a little bit and then flops to the ground. They called a foul on Lexi Hall here. Sabrina Ionescu knocks down 2 free throws after this play, and that puts them up 90-88.
That single whistle gave the Liberty a 2-point lead in the final seconds. Now here's where the controversy turns into a scandal. Just seconds later, Caitlin Clark gets the final possession. She tries to shake off Natasha Cloud, who's got both hands on her. She's grabbing her hip, bumping her arm, hand-checking her before the ball even touches Clark's hands. Then on the actual shot attempt, Cloud makes contact again. No call. Game over.
So Natasha Cloud is guarding Caitlin Clark. There was one time where she has 2 hands on her. She has a hand on her arm. She has a hand on her stomach. She has a hand on her hand. When she goes up, I think she does cleanly rip the ball, but there is contact on her arm. As you can see, she comes across, Caitlin Clark goes up for 3, and there's no foul call, and then the game is over.
That wasn't just a missed call. It was a sequence of decisions, or lack of them, that determined the game's outcome. And Clark wasn't the only one being ignored. When she and Sophie Cunningham tried to approach the refs after the game, the officials physically turned their backs. No eye contact, no response. One of them even shrugged her off like she didn't matter. These aren't rookies just making mistakes. This was coordinated indifference, an intentional refusal to acknowledge legitimate questions about officiating in a nationally televised game.
As you can see after the game, Caitlin Clark and Sophie are both running up to the referee here. They are both so upset, and the referee is just walking away from them. He won't even look at them in the face. He keeps turning, like Sophie even went up at one point and is like tapping on his arm. He would not even look at them.
Coach Stephanie White didn't mince words afterward. She called it egregious, pointing to a staggering -31 free throw discrepancy in recent Fever games. That's not just unlucky, that's targeted neglect. She emphasized that the Fever weren't chucking threes the entire game. They were attacking the rim, playing physical basketball, and getting hacked every step of the way. Aaliyah Boston was repeatedly hit on entry passes. Clark was shoved off screens. Dana Bonner got knocked down under the rim. Play after play, the whistle stayed silent, unless it favored New York.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A -31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways.
And here's what makes it worse. This isn't an isolated incident. There's footage circulating online from multiple angles showing the final possessions, and it's brutal to watch. Clark fighting through contact, held by the waist, bumped on the arm, and completely denied a chance to even release the shot. Yet somehow the officials, 3 of them, didn't see anything. Meanwhile, Sabrina Ionescu gets feather touched and gets rewarded with a trip to the line. If that isn't bias, then what is? But it wasn't just the no calls. It was how visibly rattled the Fever were by it, and rightfully so.
We're still not recognizing our mismatches. You know, I felt like AB had plenty of opportunities. We could have gotten her touches down low, and you know, we had some turnovers, key turnovers. We settled at times. You know, we fought, but we can't dig ourselves a hole from the beginning.
It took us halfway through the season. This year, it took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, I've had enough. It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, you know what? I've had absolute enough.
They did everything right for 3 quarters. Clark came alive, breaking through a brutal shooting slump with gutsy buckets and floor-leading assists. The team responded. The fans erupted. And when it mattered most, their effort was nullified not by missed shots or poor defense, but by officiating that looked more like sabotage than mistake.
But the WNBA referee situation is really bad. A minus 31 free throw diff? Are you kidding me? You get a little home cooking from the refs. Is there any home cooking in this league, period? It's the Caitlin Clark disrespect. And what I mean by that is you've got somebody who is obviously the most popular player in basketball. You got somebody that I would argue may be a top 5 most popular athlete in the United States of America. All right. You got this athlete in a league that nobody's been watching, never turned a profit, and your system is broken against that team.
What happened in the Liberty game wasn't an isolated mistake. It was the latest chapter in a pattern that's been building since Caitlin Clark entered the league. From hard fouls to missed calls, Clark has been subject to officiating that feels less like oversight and more like resistance. The physicality is one thing. Every rookie expects that. But the inconsistency in officiating, the blatant ignoring of contact, and the silence from the league paint a darker picture. It's not just about tough defense. It's about Clark being officiated differently. Multiple games now have featured questionable moments, hand-checking that would draw whistles for other stars, shoulder bumps that go uncalled, even technicals for reactions others get away with. Then there's the now viral footage of referees turning their backs on Clark and her teammates as they attempted to speak after a controversial finish. These aren't just missed opportunities. They're moments that show a refusal to acknowledge her as the leader and competitor she is.
And when you've got someone who moves markets, you have to pay attention to that person.
She's the reason the WNBA just won the lottery. Without Caitlin Clark, nobody cares about any of these players or the league.
Coach Stephanie White said it best. It's egregious. A minus 31 free throw differential over recent games can't be chalked up to coincidence. Clark and her teammates are attacking the rim, getting knocked around, and not getting calls. Meanwhile, their opponents draw fouls on minimal contact. The message feels deliberate. Play through it or don't play at all. What's worse is the silence from the top. No statement from the league, no public explanation, no effort to address what's becoming impossible to ignore. Clark is the reason people are watching. She's driving record ratings and attendance, and yet she's being left to fend for herself while the referees go unchecked and the league looks the other way. If this continues, the damage won't be just to her stat sheet, it'll be to the league's integrity.
Who, by the way, I'm going to go there, who happens to be white and brought a level of attention and allure to the sport it had not received before.
She fills seats. She brings the cameras. She brings national publicity. We can lament it all we want to, but the fact of the matter is, Caitlin Clark is box office.
The deeper you look, the more obvious it becomes. This isn't just a few missed calls or a bad night from the refs. What Caitlin Clark is experiencing reflects a systemic breakdown in the WNBA's officiating standards, accountability structure, and overall leadership. The referees are not just inconsistent, they're erratic, untrained, and completely unchecked. And when players, coaches, and entire fan bases are repeatedly pointing to the same officiating problems without a response from the league, that's not incompetence. That's institutional failure. One of the most revealing moments from the Liberty game wasn't even on the court. It happened during the broadcast. CBS flashed a graphic saying the Fever had one challenge left, leading fans and commentators to demand that Coach Stephanie White challenge the foul that gave Sabrina Ionescu her game-winning free throws. But here's the twist. She couldn't. According to league rules, a team must have a full timeout available to initiate a challenge, and White didn't have one. The broadcast team, unaware of this nuance, unintentionally misinformed millions of viewers. The result? Fans blamed the coach. The narrative shifted away from the ref's mistake, and once again, the league avoided accountability.
All right, when that foul took place, CBS said, she's got a challenge left. Well, it didn't matter. She couldn't use it. Stephanie White could not challenge that foul call on Lexi Hull, the one that led to the game-winning free throws from Sabrina Ionescu, because she didn't have a timeout. You need a full timeout, not a reset timeout, to initiate the challenge. Now, my issue with that is it would have been nice if the CBS announcers hadn't even brought up the challenge.
This kind of chaos doesn't happen in leagues with strong leadership and professional officiating. It happens in leagues where rules are murky, communication is poor, and officials operate without fear of consequences. There are no post-game press conferences for referees, no detailed breakdowns of blown calls, no transparency. And that opacity allows the worst behavior to continue unchecked, especially when it involves a player like Caitlin Clark, whose very presence threatens to disrupt the old guard of WNBA politics. Let's be real. The WNBA loves Caitlin Clark, but only when it suits them. They use her image to sell jerseys, boost ratings, and fill arenas. She's on the league's social media. She's in their promotional reels. She's the headline on every broadcast. But when she's fouled, ignored, or disrespected, silence. No protection, no response. It's as if the league wants the money and attention she brings, but not the responsibility that comes with it. They want her face on the brand, but they don't want to step in when the brand is being trampled on national TV. That selective support is dangerous, because while the league may be reaping short-term gains from Clark's stardom, they're risking long-term credibility by failing to stand up for her on the court. Fans are noticing. New viewers, many of whom are watching women's basketball for the first time, are asking hard questions. Why isn't she getting the calls other stars get? Why are refs turning their backs on her? Why does the league remain silent while its most valuable player is treated like an afterthought? These are not minor PR issues. These are cracks in the foundation of a league trying to scale up.
Speak to her, to be around her. She's got charisma, she's got style, she's got bravado, she's got class, she's smart as hell. Communicates her thoughts very, very well. She is so incredibly marketable. I just think that she's elevating the profile of women's sports in a way that most women should deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate.
The impact isn't just emotional, it's competitive. Clark is not just a scorer, she's a floor general. When she's ignored by refs, it changes the entire rhythm of the Fever's offense. She gets face guarded, hand checked, shoved off screens, and when the whistle doesn't come, the play breaks down. Her teammates are forced into rushed decisions, turnovers spike, and the game plan implodes. And that's exactly what the opposing teams, and increasingly, it seems, the referees want. Keep her frustrated, keep her isolated, and tilt the balance without ever needing to play better basketball. What's most infuriating is that this is all happening while the WNBA is enjoying unprecedented attention and doing absolutely nothing to protect the engine driving that surge. It would take one public statement, one referee suspension, one investigation into officiating inconsistencies. But instead, it's crickets. No transparency, no consequences, no commitment to making the product better. And if that continues, the risk isn't just losing Clark's trust. It's losing the wave of fans, sponsors, and media that came with her. Because if the league refuses to evolve, fans will eventually walk away. They won't keep tuning in to watch their favorite player get hacked, ignored, and dismissed. They won't support a product that punishes its own stars. And Clark, who has shown nothing but professionalism in the face of all this, deserves better. She didn't just put the WNBA on the map for a new generation. She's the reason people are finally paying attention. But if the referees in the league keep treating her like a threat instead of an asset, it won't just be Clark who suffers. It'll be the entire future of the league.
The WNBA tried to capitalize on her popularity and crammed a lot of games in over a short amount of time, playing against the best teams in the WNBA.
The ratings were phenomenal because of Caitlin Clark. But we all realize that Caitlin Clark single-handedly is responsible for the WNBA mattering.
The one thing that I love that she's bringing to her sport, more people want to watch. More people want to tune in.
While Caitlin is fantastic, and I think she's going to have an incredible career in the WNBA.
Who's going to be the next face of the NBA? We don't get to decide that. The marketplace decides that. The people have chosen Caitlin Clark.
What we just witnessed wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a bad game or a missed call. It was the clearest sign yet that Caitlin Clark is being targeted. Not just by defenders trying to slow her down, but by a system that refuses to protect her, even as it profits off her name. The referees have made their message loud and clear. They're not afraid to interfere with the outcome of games. And the league? They're just as guilty, because their silence speaks louder than any whistle ever could. How many more games have to be stolen before something is done? How many more times will we watch Clark take a beating on the court while officials pretend nothing happened? The fans see it. The footage proves it. The coach called it out. But the WNBA stays quiet. No investigation, no explanation, no accountability. Just another day where the league's brightest star is disrespected in plain sight. And nothing changes. But here's the truth they're not ready to face. This isn't going away. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player. She's a movement. And every unfair call, every ignored foul, every moment she's treated like she doesn't belong, it only makes her supporters louder. The fans are paying attention now. And if the WNBA continues to fail her, it's not just their credibility on the line, it's their future. So to the league, the refs, and anyone else trying to dim her light, understand this. Caitlin Clark isn't going anywhere, and neither are we. You can ignore the whistles, but you can't ignore the millions who are watching. This isn't just a game anymore. This is a reckoning.